Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this licensing subcommittee B meeting. My name is Gareth Sykes. I'm the Governance Services Officer for this meeting, and I will begin by briefly giving you a rundown for the meeting participants more than anything else. The protocols for Hackney Council remote meetings, so please bear with me. I will try and get through these as quickly as possible so that we can start formal business of the agenda. Okay, in terms of the protocols, only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the committee chair. Will everyone please ensure that their mics are muted when they are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage to ensure the meeting is conducted effectively. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes highlighted at the start of the meeting and contained within the agenda meeting pack. If you're referring to a specific page or picture in the report, refer to that page number. Okay, I'd be very grateful if somebody could mute that microphone, please. Thank you. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet to alert the meeting, or dial in on the phone number, but I think we're all joining that meeting, so that's not relevant. Please don't, this is very important, please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. If there is more than one application, parties are advised that after each application is heard in turn, as set out in the agenda pack, the subcommittee will not retire after each application. The parties can contact the licensing service to be informed of the decision the following day, or can simply wait until they are notified of the decision. Applicants and all other parties will be asked to leave the proceedings and when their item is concluded. Once all applications have been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on each application they have heard. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. So that concludes the Hackney Council remote meeting protocol. And we will now begin the formal business on the agenda, beginning with the election of a chair, please.
I nominate Councillor Gordon.
I second that.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the licensing subcommittee. I'm now going to proceed to agenda item 2, which is apologies for absence. As I understand it, no apologies have been received at the time of writing. And
that is correct, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. So agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do the members have any interest to declare?
No.
Yeah. And also I think it'd be helpful if the members sitting can briefly introduce themselves. I'm Councillor Margaret Gordon, I represent Lee Bridge Ward. And my colleagues are?
Councillor Sam Moema, representing Hackney Downs Ward.
Councillor Harvey Odds, representing Springfield Ward.
Thank you very much. So there's no minutes for consideration at this meeting. I'm now going to outline the procedure, which you should have in your agenda packs. It's agenda item 5. So I'm just going to briefly go through the procedure, and you can obviously, for the benefit of everybody here. So the first item is the appointment of chair and introductions, which we've now completed. The next step for both these separate items will be that I will turn to the licensing officer to outline her report, and she has 5 minutes to do that. Following that, the applicant will present their case in support of the application. I will then invite any responsible authorities present and in attendance to highlight their reasons for objecting to the application as contained within the report. I will then proceed to invite any other persons in attendance to present their case, and also to obviously highlight any reasons they have for objecting or supporting the application. We'll then proceed to a discussion. and members will have an opportunity to discuss what they've heard and also ask questions or clarifications from all parties. We'll then proceed to the closing remarks. So we'll ask the responsible authorities, other persons, applicants and licensing officers to make any further comments. We'll then have a final opportunity to clarify, and then we will then proceed to withdraw to consider the evidence. So that's the procedure. Obviously, if people have got any questions, they can ask myself or one of the governance officers or legal officer as the process goes on. So I think we're now going to proceed to agenda item 6, which is the first item that we've got this evening, and I invite the licensing officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing Service received an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Quarter Stores 36413 to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption of the premises for the hours stated in the agenda. Only police objection remains. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'll now proceed to the applicant. Who's representing the applicant? If you can identify yourself and outline the application.
Sure, yeah, it's Max. I'm representing myself. Yeah, I guess just to start with a sort of little bit of context as to the Quarter Store, what I've been doing with it. So I set up the store sort of first time around in May this year. The reason I set it up was basically to try and support a load of local food and drink businesses that have been impacted by obviously everything's going on. So I set it up in May. I actually launched in Bohemia Place, so just around about 200-300 meters from the site of the new store, in partnership basically with one of my suppliers who had a fully licensed premises. So I basically ran that store from May through to the end of June, so end of August. Then with the new store, I had a couple of months off, and I've now just opened at the new site at 364 Mare Street. So in terms of the alcohol license application, basically, I guess the reason I'm sort of keen to sell alcohol, so out of the previous store, I was supporting about 30 local businesses, of which about 10 of those were alcohol business. So that's sort of local craft breweries, some small sort of independent wine merchants, a couple of spirit distilleries in the area. In terms of my sales previously, it accounts for about 40 to 50% of what I was selling, so quite a material portion of what my sales are. So for, as a business, it's probably the difference between being successful and not being able to sell alcohol. In terms of, I guess, sort of my mission of trying to support local businesses, these, I guess alcohol businesses are probably more impacted recently than any other type of supplier that I'm working with. So it's kind of, for me, the importance of alcohol is both the sustainability of my business, but also in terms of trying to support some other local businesses. I'm obviously aware, of the police objections to the application. I just to sort of say off the bat, I'm a local resident. I live just up the road on Alhurst Road. I obviously ran the first store around the corner from where I was previously, so where I am now. I'm kind of aware of the issues, and then sort of willing to work, very keen to work with the police to sort of figure out the right way, of not contributing to any issues in the area. I guess sort of my main comment as to why sort of hopefully we shouldn't really contribute is that in terms of the type of alcohol we're selling. So as I mentioned, we work with local craft breweries, and by the nature of the product, it's somewhat more expensive than than like some of the cheaper beers that you can get, for example, at Marks and Spencer's just across the road, and from some of the other retailers in the close vicinity. So, for example, the cheapest beer that I was previously selling was £2.25 for a 33 centilitre can. Similarly, with my wine selection, the wines are typically between £15 and £25, cheapest being £13.50. So again, I'd sort of, in terms of like the nature of the product, I'd hope it's not the sort of thing that people are going to come in and buy, with the sole sake of getting drunk and perhaps contribute to some of the issues in the area. I'm also very keen. As I said, I'm aware of the issues. We've installed CCTV in the shop. My staff, I've sort of told about the issues, but I'm very open to whatever suggestions, whether it's you or the police officers have in terms of being able to sell alcohol safely from the premises.
Yeah. Thanks very much. I'm now going to proceed to ask the responsible authorities. I think we've got a police officer and a police in attendance. If you can identify yourself and outline your objections to this application, then we'll proceed to a discussion. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. I'm PC Atkins, based at the Police Licensing Unit in Hackney. Our objections were based around the problems we do have in the area with street drinking, ASB, which is echoed, and I'm sure, as Mr. Fishman says, he's a local resident, so he is aware of the issues around there. We did speak with Mr. Fishman, and I'm aware, unless things have changed, as good as his intentions are, that he doesn't want to contribute to the problems in the area. He does only have a 3-month lease on the premises, and he's applying for a full license. We don't know what that's going to look like afterwards. If he were to choose not to continue with the license or not be able to extend the lease for any reason, and we have a full license there, and the person that does take this license over may not be aware of the issues in the area or have the same business model as Mr. Fishman with the craft beer supporting local breweries, and then we can find ourselves in a position where the street drinking is going to be contributed to, and therefore could undermine the licensing objectives. That's the basis of our objection.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll now proceed to myself and my colleagues asking questions of the applicants and responsible authorities. Could you, firstly, obviously, could you respond to the what PC Atkins has said in relation to your premises?
That's absolutely great. Basically, I've got the initial contract I've signed is for a 3-month period. Basically just sort of seeing how it goes in a new site. I thought it was quite risky to, given the current climate, to sign up to a longer term lease. I had actually originally, when I sent off the application, I had sort of spoken to the member of the council about doing a shorter one. The reason I didn't go for a 3-month lease is obviously there's a bit of a lead time in terms of getting the lease, obviously a cost involved in doing so. So my concern was that there's if everything goes well, there's a possibility to extend it. So my concern was if I just applied for a 3-month lease, I then also 3-month license. If everything went well and looked to extend, then I would be without a license in the 3-month, after 3 months, and have to reapply. I'm open. The reality is if it goes well, I could be there 6 months, 9 months. I'm unlikely to be there much longer. I think the landlords, I understand, has basically is trying to get planning permission to basically redevelop the whole site. So I think that whoever is basically whatever happens next is basically the landlord redeveloping, I think, turning into a restaurant. But yeah, I'm open to. I understand that some of the concerns about having a sort of open-ended license. Albeit, I guess the only thing I would say is if I'm open to, for example, a minimum pricing on alcohol, and I would have thought if that was in place, it may protect, protect like the area from whoever may come in and take, if someone comes in after me to take the license.
Is your business model something that's that you just see as a business model for the pandemic period, a sort of fairly temporary business model?
Well, so that's where it started. What I'm trying to do now is kind of it's a convenience store, which is where I can work with local businesses. So we're selling a lot of food. We're not selling alcohol now, but would like to better sell alcohol. But it's also You know, we're going to have like art from local artists. We're going to get flowers. We're doing coffees to go. So yeah, it was very much born out of everything that's happened, and there's been, I guess, a really sort of nice response in terms of like the community feel to it. My hope is that it would outlast the pandemic, and there'd be a longer term future to it. But as I said, currently I'm looking to see how it goes on the new site. If it goes well, then I'd be looking to do it permanently.
I mean, the trouble is, obviously, it's a premises license. I mean, I'll now invite my colleagues if they've got any questions.
Could I ask a couple of questions, Chair?
Yes, of course.
The first is to just some points of clarification around the implications of granting a permanent license. And the second is just, to the applicant, I didn't quite appreciate that that you wanted something for a short period of time, but then the license would stay with the premises, and then your landlord who wants to open a restaurant, it feels like if that were something that were to happen, that should be a separate hearing of its own. So I'm just wondering, why is it that you can't just have a license which is conditioned on the length of time that you're open?
Can I turn to our legal officer?
I do actually, I think, probably more appreciate the concerns from the police around creep and what will happen to this premises. I can see it coming back as a restaurant and then something else and something else if you decide to move on. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are around that, kind of having something which, obviously, subject to you having everything in place, your license comes in and then it's shut down again.
So is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you mind? The concern is that it basically that someone else would take the license on after me. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I guess I'm not trying to apply. Like not looking.
No, I appreciate that you're not trying to necessarily do that on behalf of somebody who might come after you, but it's just that concern from the police about your business at the moment is 3 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And at which point the premises will remain licensed.
Yeah.
There will be a separate application which is beyond the scope of this committee to planning to turn it into something else, to then come back and it feels like there are two different things happening. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on having a license which is limited to your business in terms of the premises.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely. I discussed with PC Atkins whether it'd be possible to tie the license to my business. I completely understand the concerns about whoever comes in next sort of taking over the license. I'm very open if it was to be a limited time period. I guess my as I said, the reason I hadn't done that initially was, I guess, my concern that if I did 3 months, tried to then extend it to 3 months, then there could be I guess there's a cost involved in reapplying, and the period by which I wouldn't be able to sell alcohol probably in the intervening period. So if it was that it was time limited, it was 6 or 9 months, that would be absolutely fine for me. But I completely understand the concern of having an open-ended one, and that's not really what I'm asking for.
Chair, just one other question, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Just because you're moving from Bohemia Place to the Narrowway, which is not open to motor vehicles, and you've talked about having Deliveroos and other delivery companies come and collect from you. So obviously they use bicycles, but also use motor scooters, and I'm just wondering, logistically, how are you going to make sure that there aren't scooters coming to and from your premises?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I'll make sure having seen, so I haven't gone back onto the route yet. But I would have, if there were scooters coming to the door, I'd tell them that they're not allowed to do that. My understanding from obviously being in the area is that they walk up the Narrowway. I think they park down the bottom and they walk up.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, if basically enforce that if there was a
yeah. Okay.
So if we're minded to grant this license, would you agree to that as a condition in terms of not permitting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to tell. Yes, if scooters were to come up to tell them, they're not allowed to do so.
Councillor Odds, do you have any questions?
Nothing further than what Councillor Moan has said. I was actually going to ask the same thing about the how the delivery drivers were going to get the goods to and from their vehicles.
Perfect. I think Amanda our legal officer wants to come in to comment. If you can advise us on proposals that.
Sorry, yes, I was just going to raise a couple of points, and I'll think about the condition shortly. Just to ask, I don't know, Chair, through you, whether or not you've asked about apart from the vehicles, is the dispersal and the Uber or the taxis, etc., how that will be working with the SIA or the dispersal policy.
Yes, that's very helpful. If you could describe how you think all of that is going to, how you envisage all of that working in terms of the deliveries, and how they will arrive and disperse, and how that won't add to the sort of impact on the street.
So in terms of like in terms of like people, is it in terms of like the delivery at the final end, or in terms of the driver from the door?
But yeah, particularly your premises. I think that particularly in your premises, how you're not going to get a big crowd. If how you'll avoid there being public nuisance caused by big crowds.
As a result of lots of delivery drivers outside.
Lots of delivery drivers at the same time on Saturday night, for example. So
yeah. I mean, to be completely honest, I'm not doing at the previous place. I wasn't doing enough volume. Previously I was doing sort of 10, 15 orders a day. So I'm not, the sort of first thing is I'm not expecting massive volumes of online orders. The other thing is unlike, I guess, a restaurant, which is like there's quite a long sort of cooking time, and like it could be that there are lots of, you sometimes see lots of delivery drivers waiting outside. With what we're doing, we're not doing food preparation. So in terms of when we get an order in, it's a case of it takes about a minute. We just pack up a bag and hand it over. So the process is very quick. So I basically wouldn't expect there to ever be a sort of queue of drivers outside the door.
But what if you were successful beyond your wildest dreams and you did get a huge crowd? Have you got policy or plan to deal with that?
We have. So just until just sort of generally in terms of, I guess, coronavirus, we're limiting the number of people coming to the store to 5 people at the moment. We plan basically where possible. I was going to have 2 people in the store. So if there were, if there was like some sort of outside, we have one person to be in the store, one person simultaneously to go outside and sort of manage any sort of crowd issues there may be.
I mean, would you be prepared to agree to conditions in terms of, a dispersal policy which is agreed by the licensing service?
But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to whatever you suggest. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not quite sure what sort of shape that would take, but if there's things we can put into the license, then I'm very happy to apply that to apply for it.
Okay.
Claire, sorry, one more question.
Yes.
I don't know whether you want to consider it or not. Is given that the applicant's only looking for a period of 3 to 9 months, although he's applying for a full license, I don't know whether or not a time-limited license might be appropriate or not. So then there's a start and end date for this particular license.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to second guess what my colleagues are thinking, but I do think that does sound like something that may well be appropriate. I mean, possibly for up to 9 months.
I don't know if that was for me. I mean, for me, if you said 9 months, that would be. I think that'd be absolutely fine. I mean, the reality is. There's a point at which I'm sure the landlords. I think basically the landlord's waiting on planning permission. So there's a point. I think next year, assuming he gets that through, that I'm no longer, I guess, welcome in the unit. If it has got to 9 months, things are going sufficiently well, and I'd be looking, I guess, to get a permanent premises anyway. So for me, 9 months would be absolutely sufficient.
Councillor Rodds, I think you wanted to come. Sorry, Amanda.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. So he wouldn't be staying beyond 9 months, basically, even if he is successful to.
I mean, it could. I basically, I'm not going to put. I have no plans of being there for 5 years. If you said to me 9 months, I'd be very surprised if I was there beyond 9 months. It could be a year. it's kind of, as long as I guess you are sort of comfortable, if that's one of the conditions, it's kind of, for me, the longer the better. But I completely understand the concerns about someone else coming after me. So I guess sort of leave it to you to sort of, in terms of what the right period of time. For 3 months would be very short. 6 months maybe would probably be okay. 9 months would give me a little bit of buffer, if things are going well.
Suba, did you want to make a point here?
Just I want to clarify to members, this is an off-license premises, so the dispersal policy is not applicable.
Okay, apologies for that. Thank you. Councillor Oz, do you want to make a point?
No, I was just going to ask Mr. Fishman how long the maximum he was going to envisage himself being in the premises, which is what Amanda asked already. Anyway.
Yeah, he's answered it. Okay. All right. I don't think I've got any questions. I don't know whether the applicant and the responsible authorities want to sum up.
Chair, if I may just make one point very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm still concerned about street drinking in the area. I mean, if you were minded to grant the application, would the applicant be open to considering conditions such as no super strength alcohol or ciders and no miniature bottles, just to try and combat that street drinking in the area?
Would you be able to consider those?
Yeah, I certainly no miniature bottles, but yeah, absolutely. With the my preference is I can sort of completely understand the point. My preference would be, if possible, to do minimum pricing rather than I guess a maximum strength. And the reason being is that some of the one or two the craft beers I sell from like some of the local suppliers are like 6 or 7%, but the price reflects that. So I think I've got like a 6.7%, or had a 6.7% ale, but it was like £4.75. So my preference would be, if possible, to do a minimum pricing rather than, I guess, sort of a maximum strength. But if that's not possible, I'm open to minimum strength.
How would you suggest the minimum pricing works? I mean, what sort of minimum price would you be?
That's a good question. I mean, I saw that on I don't know if you have a normal way of doing it. I saw that was on the paperwork that came through. There was some sort of formula for minimum pricing. I'm not sure. Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure. It's yeah, but I guess the concern is around like cheap, sort of, is that cheap, strong lagers or ciders, to whatever threshold by which I guess to be comfortable that I wasn't selling cheap, cheaper, stronger beers.
Chair, may I ask a question, maybe to the to Gareth and to Amanda?
Yeah.
The bit of the document which is 4.1 around minimum drinks pricing in the kind of standard schedule. Because I mean, I guess just for the applicant's benefit, we can look at the actual product, kind of what you're selling. We can't really legislate for taste and kind of what you sell. That's up to you. But it's more around, striking a balance between the strength of the alcohol and kind of what the impact of that is on street drinking versus the likelihood of you having lots of people buying alcohol of any income group, not necessarily the stereotypical homeless person, and getting boozed in the street, I think, is the concern. So it's more something a bit more robust from you about how you're going to deal with that.
So in terms of how it's not, you're saying it's basically not necessarily like a price thing. It's more like
how you kind of your role in making sure that people aren't kind of buying lots of alcohol and then drinking on the streets.
Yeah, we're looking for reassurance that's not going to happen. I mean, that's and with that, the only way we could do that is by you offering, us imposing conditions, preferably in agreement with something that you've offered and discussed with you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's yeah. I say, yeah. As I said, sort of. I'd spoken to PC Atkins about. I think he'd mentioned putting stickers on cans. Again, I'm very open to doing that. So we could patrol. We could see in the close vicinity. I know he'd raised issues about in the churchyard drinking there. So I'm very happy to put stickers on any cans we sell. We can check. we can check if anything we've been selling has been drunk in the local area. We are, if we were sort of to see any concern, as I said, I'm like a semi-local resident. I'm sort of aware of some of the issues. Like if there are issues, like I don't know what channels we can sort of contact the police, or if there's any antisocial behaviour. But we're happy to, if we have concerns in the area, sort of speak to the police about it. But yeah, if the sort of the consensus is that it's intent that your preference is that you don't sell any stronger beers, it's only like 1 or 2 cans that we're selling. So if that would sort of offer reassurance, then I'm open to not selling some of the stronger beers we have.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's any further questions or comments from anyone, I think I'll now ask the parties to sum up. So I don't know whether the responsible authorities want to.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of my reps, everything. Our concern was street drinking. I mean, if there was something in place to stop the super strength alcohol and the license was time limited to stop it passing to someone that has a completely different model, I think that would allay our concerns somewhat on this application.
Thank you. Mr. Fishman, is there anything else you want to say?
No, just I guess, I mean, I think we sort of said it all. I'm very open if it's time limited, ideally, at least for 9 months. As I said, my sort of preference would be to do a minimum pricing, but if it's sort of more reassuring to do maximum strength on beers and ciders, then I'm very happy to do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll now retire to discuss this application. And
I think.
Sorry, Chair. We did it at the end. Yeah.
Yes, that's at the end, Chair. Yes.
Yeah, we're doing it at the end.
At the end of the meeting.
I heard of myself. We're now going to proceed on to. It's agenda item 7.
6.
6. Sorry. Yeah, agenda item 6.
So.
Yeah. So everyone.
So do I jump off now?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the time.
Yeah, and you'll be informed in due course.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fishman.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if anybody saw my message but I do note that one of the other persons who wishes to remain anonymous for this next item has left the meeting. Hopefully he will be joining us very soon, but I just wanted to re-clarify, he wishes to remain anonymous for the meeting.
Thank you, Gareth. That's very helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the next page of my papers. Okay. So now proceeding on to agenda item 6. So this is in relation to Tetto's, 123 to 125 Kingsland High Street. Who's appearing? Could the applicant or the representative identify themselves? And
Good evening.
5 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to start with the licensing officer who's going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing Service received an application for variation of premises license under Section 34 of the Licensing Act for Tetto's 123 to 125 Kingsland High Street, as stated in the agenda. The police have not withdrawn their objection based on agreed conditions, and the applicant has submitted risk assessment fire plan for the fire authorities. All these informations have been circulated. Only licensing, fire authority, and other person objection remains. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to the applicant, and you've got 5 minutes to present your application. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Onur Suran. I'm the operations manager for Tetto's Restaurants and Associated Businesses. As you're well aware, we made the application to vary the existing premises license. And the main point is on the license, which you receive most of the representations as well, is they utilize the basement floor of the premises as a private function room. I would like to stress the word private, as what we are asking is not open to all, or you can just walk in and order a drink sort of venue at all. First and foremost, we are a restaurant with a bar. We are not hiding anything. It's a very open application on what we'd like to do and how we manage this. Before we make the application, we discussed what we want to do with the police licensing. We had a couple of meetings at the premises, and we prepared the application along these lines. So we didn't just see an opportunity and I said, okay, let's put a application for it. It's a large space, but in the previous premises license, the space is not allowed to use due to it used to be a bakery and everything. So obviously there has been changes on the plans, which now the plans have all been submitted to the fire authority as well. They were expecting these plans showing the firefighting equipment, and due to the couple of changes on the layout, it was delayed, but now they have it. I've made a phone call yesterday as well. However, I haven't heard from them since on an email, but they do have both of the documents they asked for, just to put it out there. I've read all the representations, especially from the residents, and I totally understand their worries. We are, as an establishment, we know the area well. The DPS, Mr. Salman Kurtan, the owner of the business, has 2 other licensed premises in the borough of Hackney and several in other boroughs. Between us, we have 14 plus years of managerial experience on the licensed premises. What we are asking is really only half an hour extension, time-wise, on the supply of alcohol, and allowing us to use the downstairs. I mean, I want to concentrate on this part a lot because we are not just another place selling alcohol in any shape or form, or this is not a Trojan horse application to develop the place into something else in a year time or 2 years time. Also, we have, just to clarify, as a peace of mind, we actually offered a condition forward, which has been accepted by the licensing police. I hope it's been welcomed by yourselves and by the residents as well. The condition says the use of ground floor is only permitted if the DPS, Mr. Salman Kurt, as well is the owner of the business as well, present at the venue from beginning to the end of the event. So we believe with this condition we eliminate, although we have a lease up until 2033, so we have no intention of selling the place. However, it's a business world. I cannot give you guarantees. There is no plans. We are happy with what we have. But in the likelihood of the place being transferred to someone else, they cannot just come and use the downstairs as a events venue, or maybe something much more than what we are applying for, if you wish. So that is to stop that venue being transferred or developed into something much more. The other few other concerns is basically the place turned into a hub of ASP and drug use and antisocial behavior, obviously, and public nuisance. We also agreed with the police licensing that we asked for 80 people capacity for the basement. We now agreed a number which is 65, and that includes the staff. So including 2 SIA staff, which we are proposing, which is very sufficient for 50 guests effectively, because we are looking at around 12 to 13 staff if that room is open, and that ends up with only 50 guests. Now, what is the difference from any other bar or a club, if you wish, and what we're applying for? The event space will not be open when the venue is open. It's only open if there is a pre-booked event. I mean, this can be let's not always think about people gonna get drunk and dance and cause trouble. There are lots of other events that we want to utilize this space, and we have been utilizing a similar space in our flagship and in Highbury and Islington without any problems. I mean, we had book launches, a local artist exhibit her work, lots of other art projects, as well as, of course, birthday parties, christenings or baby showers. Our clientele is really, we're not targeting anyone under the age of 25 to 30. We really are a restaurant, and we even dry age our steak in the premises. We have 2 massive kitchens at that site. We are not trying to turn it into a just bar. It's not in our interest. We are operating, I mean, I cannot give you an exact number, but within the regions of 70-30, 75-25 food and wet, food being the lead sale. So alcohol is obviously important, but it's not what we are making our money from. We are predominantly a restaurant. So even if we get this license, if it's approved, it does not mean that we will be using ground floor 52 weeks a year at all. There's a higher fee. With that higher fee, we need we already agreed the guest list condition. There will be names, surnames, ages, if wanted, because due to the current regulations, we cannot do anything there anyway. But we will have the details, exact details, the age group, the numbers, how many people coming, what time they are coming, when they are coming, when they are leaving. So we will have all this information, which more or less 9 out of 10 bars in the area do not operate. So everything will be under strict control. Our closing time as well, we are looking at not later than midnight, before midnight. And we believe, with the document I provided as well, we highlighted all the 4 licensing objectives that we believe, with the conditions and with our commitment to work with all of you, and as well as our residents, we are involved here for good relations, really. Good relations and success, nothing else. And without good relations, we cannot have success. Simple as that. They're very connected. So we believe we can satisfy all 4 licensing objectives. And I would love to hear any questions, and I will do my best to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a number of people wanting to speak on this item, so I think we'll proceed to hear all the representations before we proceed to questions and discussion.
Of course.
Yes. So I think we've now got the responsible authorities. We've got the representative from the fire service. Are they in attendance? They've withdrawn.
I don't think we've heard from the fire service chair. Suba, they were sent the meeting invite, but nobody responded. So okay. I think we shall continue on to the representation of the licensing service chair.
Yeah. So I'll now invite Mr. Tuitt, from licensing officer, to make his representations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. My representation is within today's agenda at B2. So within that, I've highlighted that the premises is located within the Dalston SPA, and this is an area of the borough which has been identified as suffering from the cumulative impacts as a result of the number of licensed premises in that area. So as a result of that, the applicant is required to demonstrate that their proposal won't have a negative impact on the promotion of the licensing objectives in that area and on the cumulative impact. I have had sight of the revised conditions. I do have some concerns in particular about the condition that requires Mr. Kurt to be present at any time the basement is in use. I'm sure that will be a matter of discussion when we do get to the discussion stage. I feel that this condition, there's some concerns around how enforceable that condition would be. And I feel that it's a very significant departure from the application that we've had just a few days ago. It's quite a significant difference, and slightly concerned why the applicant would at this stage make such a significant change to the application. So I'll leave it there for now, Chair, and I'm sure we'll get to be able to explore that a bit more when we get to the discussion phase. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Tuitt. I've now got other persons listed here. I think I'll start with, is it Ursula Howes?
You're muted.
You're muted, Dr. Howes. Can you unmute?
Sorry about that. Yes, it's Ursula Hughes. I'm Secretary of the Residents Association, representing quite a lot of residents in the immediate area. And our concern is we don't have any particular objections to this particular business, which, you know, doesn't seem to have a worse business model than anybody else. Our concern is to do with the cumulative impact. But I would like to particularly point out that this is one of many, many examples of license creep or planning creep in the area. This was previously, there were a number of applications for club and bar licenses were rejected for these premises because the local residents, what we want is retail. We want a daytime economy as well as a nighttime economy. And it finally, the premises, they were allowed to open as a bakery because we thought they were actually going to be selling bread, you know, and then that crept into becoming a cafe that sold alcohol, and then the previous people tried to open up the basement as a club and were rightly knocked back. But this is an example of planning creep. The same thing, and there were 3 in that block that moved on this transition from being a food retailer to a licensed premises with only food at the table, to then becoming slowly, by any fair means or foul, becoming effectively a bar. The same thing happened over the road with the hotel, the local people. What we accepted the application on the basis there was going to be a supermarket on the ground floor, and lo and behold, it's turned into yet another bar. And so we suffer enormously from just the side effects of just the sheer quantity of drinking that goes on in the area, with all the negative effects in terms of people being jostled on the streets, the increase in crime, people vomiting, urinating, defecating outside our front doors, graffiti, noise, fights, there's all that. But there's also the negative side, which is the area is just being turned into an alcohol zone, and we're losing the amenity of it being a retail area, which is what it traditionally was. So this case is just yet another example of that kind of creep which your committee has presided over for the last 10 years in which I've been representing these residents. Time and time again we make the same points. Time and time again we're overridden, and time again we're proved right when the consequences come home to roost. So I'm not going to make any specific cases about this particular premises. It seems to me lamentable that any use of that basement is being made for alcohol consumption. We're obviously going to have to live with the ground floor being a restaurant. I just hope very much that it really will be a proper restaurant with alcohol only served at the table, and not another excuse for a bar and another excuse for vertical drinking in an area where there's much too much of it already. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dr. Howes. I've now got
Hughes, please pronounce it correctly.
Hughes. I do apologise. Yes. No, it's a great name. Thank you. I've now got another resident who wishes to remain anonymous on the phone.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yes, I'm a resident of long-standing. I've lived here 30 years, so if I can give you the benefit of that experience. And also, I've attended quite a few of these licensing hearings, and I've got some serious reservations about this particular application, which I'd like to share with you. The first one is the fact there was no, the notice on the premises was defective. I heard the applicant saying lots of experience, but there was no mention of any entertainment license on the blue notice attached to the premises. The mention that was that Mr. Kirk was going to be present on the ground floor, I take it that was just a mistake, and it is the basement that he would be in attendance at. I have to agree with Mr. Chewett on the enforceability of that condition. That's going to be very difficult to enforce, particularly when the council's resources are so limited. I would point out on the situation with the restaurant, of course, the applicant hasn't made a proper planning application, and there is a licensing policy LP3 to consider there in terms of the planning permission, which hasn't been sought by the applicant, which is something I would expect a good management to have done in advance, rather than turning the bakery area of the premises into a very large bar. I'm not sure what pre-booked event means. I mean, who is doing the pre-booking? Is this an event that the operator has pre-booked? If that condition is going to go on there, it's going to have to be very much clarified what's going on here. And christenings and baby showers at these late hours, I'm very doubtful about. What exactly is going to go on here. It all sounds very good, but there are lots of words of comfort, and it's the conditions that come here. And I don't see two massive kitchens on the plans, as the operator seems to suggest. I see one small kitchen. You can point out another kitchen. That'd be interesting, but they're certainly not massive, but in any extent. I had to get a copy of the existing license to understand what was being applied for. This application is much worse than the previous application, which was turned down. And I still haven't seen the minutes for that application refusal. It's not for the police to say whether the variation would not undermine the licensing objectives. Madam Chairman, that's for you and the committee to determine.
Sorry, can I just stop? Ask you to stop for a moment.
Go ahead.
The chair has left the meeting. She's just rejoining, and so we just need to make sure she's present. Sorry. Can you just bear with us?
Apologies about that. I seem to lose my connection. I heard the vast majority of what the resident on the phone said, but I heard up to maybe if you could just repeat the end of his remarks just to make sure that I've heard all the evidence.
Yes, we'd stopped one when he'd left the meeting, so he didn't continue much more. So he'll repeat it now.
Thank you.
Well, I just said the application is much worse than the previous application. I haven't had the decision from that application. The minutes are unavailable. Then I went on to say it's not for the police to say whether the variation would not undermine the licensing objectives. That's for you, Madam Chairman, and the subcommittee to do. If the police don't think these variations will cause more crime and disorder, I would disagree. There's always more opportunity of crime with later hours and a greater consumption of alcohol, and undoubtedly this will cause more nuisance. This was a large increase in capacity, and turning it downstairs into an event space, I don't know why that can't be done with tens rather than doing it like this. The police are poor drafters of legal documents, I've found over the years. So seems to be some confusion here with the representation from Kerry Ryan. I hope this has been cleared up. I did email Mr. Sain and Mr. Chewett, and I need to check everyone is on the same page with regard to the Condition 13 agreement. Can I just check that you thoroughly understand what the condition agreement is with the police, because there was some confusion with that, and I've had to investigate and clear that one up myself.
We'll proceed to talk about that during discussion, but I've made a note of that point. Thank you.
Well, it's very important, obviously. I'm concerned that the lack of council and police forces leaves communities like ours vulnerable. The intent of the applicant is to run a bar. That's what the applicant applied for. That's what he applied for with his suggested variation to condition 13. My concern about the hours applied for is that the people don't really want to eat late at premises in the area. The premises is advertising itself as an Italian bar and kitchen. It's a massive bar with a 10-page drinks menu. There are proper restaurants around here, but many are just pretending. And the real ones don't open late because, well, unless they're catering for people getting drunk and having a kebab. Proper restaurants don't open after midnight. There's no real call for proper restaurant dining at that time of night. It's drinking is what is being sought. I'm concerned there will be traffic between the ground floor and the basement. And I think there is a substantial increase in hours. I don't know how half an hour is in there, but I think there's more than that if you look at it. And we're also talking about vertical drinking and a club area in the basement with entertainment, which will produce people desensitized to noise. I also noticed there seems to be very much a lack of toilets in this place for the amount of people they're envisaging having on the premises. The applicant has provided a few words of comfort, and the dispersal policy I think is clearly unworkable. There's no sound report, there's no input from environmental health, no concern about vibration, no sound or frequency limiter, no condition to prevent any of that. And I note the flagship premises that the operator runs at 313 Highbury New Park, it was a very large public house. Very different from these premises, which are surrounded by bars and restaurants, and this was formerly a clothes shop. It's not a purpose-built place for being a restaurant. The sheer amount of people involved, and with all the other bars in the area, I find the dispersal policy really unconvincing. For one thing, there's this bus stop and a bus shelter immediately outside. There's no place for cabs to stop outside the premises, and taxis stopping or any kind of vehicle stopping directly outside these premises, that would be a public nuisance in itself. The cab firm they've got is from Stoke Newington High Street. They'd have to do a U-turn in the road to get outside these premises. It's unworkable. The bus shelter, and there's no space on the pavement for smokers, let alone 10 smokers. I don't think the police have done their homework in that respect. We're looking at a noisy dispersal up until past 1 a.m. but get at least a large amount of people out of the premises, and that wouldn't be including the inevitable tens that would be sought. I've mentioned the lack of planning permission. We've gone from a bakery to a bar. I don't see why I should have any confidence in the applicant. All I have is words of comfort. And when things get back to normal here, and they will soon enough, I'm pretty sure of it, it will be back to the usual pandemonium and chaos on the streets here, which is the usual situation here 4 or 5 nights a week, particularly at the weekends. I'll leave it there, Madam Chairman. I think I've pretty much covered it, but I would also just want to ask that we clarify this on condition 13. I just would like to mention that again. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. I'll now invite Councillor Adijari, who's one of the local councillors, to make the representations.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it brief because pretty much everything's been covered by Dr. Hughes and the second respondent. Essentially, as a ward councillor, in the short, fairly brief time that I've been a councillor in Dalston, there's been an incremental level of ASB, which is developed as the nighttime economy is developed. I receive regular representations from residents with issues relating specifically to the dispersal of people from premises such as Tito's, alongside many others, and the problems that they bring to their front doors. Dr. Hughes has already outlined this includes defecation, noise, pollution, urination, all manner of ASB, violence, drug taking, and there is no measure that our applicants can take to ameliorate those problems. What I'm left with is a sense that the SBA has had little impact on Dalston as a whole. We've got a fairly small area. This isn't the West End. We've got a small stretch of the Kingsland corridor, and the tributaries there are affected detrimentally by patrons leaving these premises. This application will bring about will increase those numbers, undoubtedly, irrespective of whether it's highly sophisticated evenings in the basement. There's going to be an impact in the immediate area. It goes without saying. And as has already been pointed out, this may be a fairly quiet period at the moment, but we know once lockdown eases and things start to build up, and hopefully coronavirus is kind of managed, and we have a antidote. There's going to be serious problems in that immediate area. As I said, in terms of managing the premises, no one has any doubt that they could manage them effectively while on premises, but it's once they leave, and that's where their responsibilities fall away. And for me, that's problematic. While we have these people wandering around our streets, a significant number often off their heads. Do you know, I'm putting it bluntly here, intoxicated, staggering around, wandering into people's front gardens and doing all manners of ASB, that's where the problem lies. So my hope is that due consideration can be given, revisions whatever made to make this, you know, I don't want to undermine anyone's business interests or business proposals, but it's clear that this is going to have an impact in Dalston. The SPA, its benefits are not realised as yet, and both the authority and the police response is limited as a result of resources. So these are all things that have to be taken into consideration. The problems there are ongoing. They've even been ongoing during the pandemic. So my hope is that, you know, further consideration can be given to this in respect of the needs of the Dalston residents who've lived there for, as we said, some for 30 or so years. They were there before Dalston became what it is. And I do believe we owe them a duty of responsibility in terms of their welfare and their well-being. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor Adijari. We're now going to proceed to the discussion. So I'll invite my colleagues to ask questions, firstly of the applicant. Councillor Weiler?
Yeah, so there's condition 30 and 32. Suba, you mentioned condition 30 and 32.
The condition 30, they want to remove condition 32.
What is that? It's just for the benefit of people on the call.
Yes, I think the intention is to remove condition 32 and to amend condition 30.
Can you say what it is?
Yeah, could you read it out? Yeah, thank you.
Right. So the condition 32 is the license shall not apply to ground floor only. That's condition 32, which the applicant proposed to remove it. And the current condition on 13 is alcohol shall not be sold, supplied, or consumed on the premises otherwise than to persons who are taking substantial table meal, and that the consumption of alcohol by such person and ancillary to taking such meals, the supply of alcohol shall be waiter or waitress service only. So this condition has been amended to the new condition proposed by the police, which is on the ground floor, alcohol shall not be sold, supplied, or consumed on the premises otherwise than to person who are taking substantial meal, and that the consumption of alcohol is ancillary to taking such meal. The supply of alcohol shall be by waiter, waitress service only.
Okay, so I would like to talk a bit more, ask the applicant a bit more about the basement rather than the ground floor, because I think in particular the concerns that the respondent on the telephone raised around it being now proposed a vertical drinking establishment with a capacity of, you've agreed to 65 or 50 plus staff. And just really quickly, just a couple of things. And then the credibility of whether or not it's enforceable, that Salman Kurt is going to be there every day until midnight. and just how does the basement work? Because it sounds remarkably like a nightclub.
Thank you very much. Obviously, there's a clear misunderstanding. I would like to clear both of them. I want to start with the Salman Kurt condition.
Yeah.
This condition was not our idea. It was my idea, however, but it obviously the police gave a concern to me. They said, if the license issued to you, which we believe you will be a responsible operator, if you decide to sell the venue next week, for argument's sake, obviously the new operators, they will land into a license that will give them use of the basement floor. So basically, this is a substantial change on the license. So they said, what can you tell us, or how can you assure us that this will not be the case in the future? It is a very, I don't think it's complicated at all, because we do not propose to open downstairs every day in any shape or form.
So how often is it open though?
Maybe 6 times a year, maybe 20 times a year, maybe 30 times a year. It is it's a function room. It is not a bar. It is not a club. It is not open to general public. Let's, for argument's sake, if you may, I may give an example. Yourself came to the premises. I hope you do it one day, and have a lovely meal. And you go downstairs to use the washrooms and use the event space there. And you were so satisfied with the way the place operates and everything, and you have a birthday coming with 20 of your family members. Obviously, we cannot do this with the COVID-19. Please, I am well aware of the regulation, but I'm talking in a normal day. That if you want to make a booking, I'll give you the price as well. It is £1,000. And we are happy to share all the contracts we are preparing for this. You pay us £1,000. We allow you to use that room for 4 hours period. It has to be pre-booked. You have to pay the price first, at least 1 week notice, so we can arrange the venue for you. There will be 2 SIA security at the door from half an hour before to half an hour after. And you must give us the names, surnames, date of births, and addresses of every attendant. This is, again, at least 24 hours prior to that event. So if
the booking period is somebody can book 24 hours before.
24 hours in advance, yes.
So they could see that a music promoter or somebody has booked something until
we are not open for music promoters. That is a no-go. We are a restaurant, and I would like
Can I just quickly interrupt you on that? So back to the point about removing the condition about vertical drinking.
Yes.
If it's a restaurant, then why do we need to remove that condition?
Very good question. My argument is another example with the technicality. On another note, if you want to keep if it's a deal breaker, the condition 13 for the ground floor, we are happy to keep it as it is.
I'm specifically talking about the basement.
Yeah, the basement, it is a function room. I mean, at the end of the day, if you come for a birthday, if you want to play a little music from your iPad, or if you bring a CD, there is a sound system. So we're not hiding anything. There is a sound system. That's why we ask for dance as well. You're allowed to dance as well. But it is under strict control. It's not like, by the way, I made a mistake. You cannot really book the venue 24 hours before, because you will need to supply me the guest list 24 hours prior. So you must be very well organized, come in with the guest list. And I have to send this guest list. I'm happy to share this guest list, the information of everyone, with the authority, with the police, if we want, with the licensing as well from the council. So if you come to a venue, we have your name, we have your date of birth, we have your address. That's how you are allowed to go into the function. And we are happy to share this information up to 24 hours before the event with the police or with any authority. So it is not that that will be open all the time. It might be once a week, it might be once a month, it might be 7 times a month. That's why we put the Salman Kurt condition, which is I'm open to change it in a way that will.
Can I just say on the Salman Kurt condition?
Sure.
No one is suggesting that you've done it in bad faith. But what if he's sick one day and then you can't do it, and then you go ahead with it? I think you need to have something more credible than one person will always be on the premises, especially if as you said, that you both have other premises and other places. You physically can't be there all the time.
We can commit to this. We can commit to this, but we are open to any other condition that would put forward to stop us, although this is not an intention, to stop us obtaining a license for the ground basement and then sell it to someone else, basically. We are happy to accept any condition that would prevent us to do that.
Okay. I've got a couple more questions, but I don't know if Councillor Odds wants to come in.
Yeah, I don't. Or maybe if you finish your questions, and then Councillor Odds can come in with anything else. So I've got a couple of questions after that, possibly. Yeah.
Okay. My question then again was around the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So, taken all of the different elements together, the capacity seems like a lot for a function room of its size, of a place in Dalston. And then the second follow-on is kind of, how is this materially different to previous situations where an application for a bar in the basement was rejected? What is materially different about the way that this is beyond it being a function room, which sells alcohol, which has music, which has people standing and dancing, but it's not a nightclub?
First of all, the times. Nightclubs, they don't operate till 11:30. They rather start at 11:30 p.m. Quite clearly. We are not a late night venue. Most of the bars, if you write bar in Google, you will get places open to 2 a.m. minimum. I think we can all agree on that. But the bars, they don't close at 8, 9. We close at currently 11 o'clock. So we are not a bar. We cannot be identified by just bar. And the brand we reflect, you can. I wish you would have looked at our the Instagram feed or whatever. You would see what we are selling. We are not selling the alcohol. We are not selling the function room. We are selling the food. This is what we're known for. It is one of the only places that says halal steak that is aged in the premises. We are talking about, I don't want to get into finances, but we could have buy a £2 steak and sell it directly, ready to go. We are buying in large amounts. It's been processed in our venue. It's been dry aged in our venue, at least for 28 days. And we have two very large kitchens. They are open to inspection for any member of the public, because one of them is an open kitchen.
Okay.
You can see, we are completely a restaurant, but we would like to utilize the function room, the controlled environment.
On the point about then the capacity,
sure,
to try and mitigate some of that impact that a venue, an increase would have. How did you land at? Because you've put it 2 ways: 65 capacity agreed with the police, including staff, and then that's gone to 50. So it's 50, not including staff.
Yes.
That still feels like a lot of people in a function room, which is open until, as you say, the time that it is. So would you be willing to look at a reduction?
Absolutely.
Okay. What sort of thing?
Excuse me?
So in just trying to get an idea of what that would look like.
As a number?
Yeah, just because
sure.
I'm trying to get to the bottom of the concerns that residents have, that it's not called a nightclub, but it looks like a nightclub, smells like a nightclub. You need, so, and just demonstrate that you're not going to have a cumulative impact on,
of course,
on the area. Currently, that's not clear, and 50 people in the basement until midnight is not it. So I'm just looking to you to see what you think.
I totally understand, and again, I really do respect the resident and your views. And once again, I mean, it might sound I'm repeating myself, but we really want to work with everyone. There's no intention, and I would like to make it clear to some of the other comments as well. The venue was licensed. We didn't get the alcohol license. We didn't promise a bakery. We were very open, honest, and clear from the first day that what we are doing. If 50 people sounds a lot, I mean, I'm happy to reduce that number by another 10. Do it 40 guests plus the staff. I'm happy to do and show a good faith, and I hope this would satisfy some of the concerns. And one thing I want to make clear, turning that venue into a nightclub, having someone, forget about going outside and urinating outside, wobbling inside the venue while a family having a dinner is unacceptable for our brand. You know, we cannot have this. We have absolutely no interest. I mean, for example, our toilets, they're open to public. Most of even the multi-million-pound chains in the high street, they reserve their toilet facilities only for customers. Our toilets are open to anyone from the member of public, as long as they are not drunk or they don't have, identify the drug user or things like that. It's open, so we are not hiding anything. We have the front glass everywhere. We are visible from outside. If you want to turn it into a comfort nightclub, the first thing we would do is to hide ourselves. We have glass all over from the bottom to the top. You can see everything what's going on inside. Yes, maybe you can't see downstairs, but if you're in when you're having a dinner, you are going downstairs to use the toilet, so you will see everything. We cannot jeopardize our business for 50 people partying or getting drunk, if you wish. I mean, our alcohol prices are the highest in the area. Our cocktails start from £10 plus service charge, so it's effectively £12. Whereas you can buy a cocktail for £7 next door to us, which they have a license till 2. So why would be a choice for binge drinking? We don't have any high IBA volume alcohols or ciders, anything like that. We have fine wine, fine single malt scotch, possibly the best selection in the area. Yes, we have a big bar, but we have bottles that maybe we will never sell. But we have that option for a family, for a responsible adult to come and enjoy a shot of whiskey by paying £16.
Okay,
so
thank you.
We are in a different level than an
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Have we got any more questions, Councillor Moema? No. Councillor Odds, do you want to ask questions?
Yeah, sure. I would preface my questions by mentioning that they come from the perspective of having worked for 20 years in the events industry. So I do have a bit of experience of what goes on, mainly on obviously on the kosher side of things. One of the concerns I have is in your documentation you provided, you've got your Teto's Dawson dispersal policy and your residence reputation and communication document. The dispersal policy looks excellent to me for the upstairs restaurant because you've got the glass frontage and people sitting waiting for their bus or their taxi. How are you going to apply this to a downstairs where people can't see when the bus is going to come? The bus is not going to sit there and wait for them. Also, in terms of the usage of the downstairs, I quite understand what you're saying, that knowing the events industry, you don't just turn up and provide an event. Events are planned anything up to 2 to 5 years in advance, depending on the event, obviously. So, giving a minimum of a week beforehand for a deposit is quite good. And having a guest list like that, I think, is quite good. But nevertheless, it's somewhat worrying looking at the layout that it's just bar stools there. I would mention, of course, the gentleman who gave his views on the phone. He did say that on the plan there's only one kitchen. I think where he might be mistaken is, you might want to confirm this or otherwise, that the plan he was looking at was actually the downstairs, whereas you're referring to 2 kitchens, one being upstairs and one being downstairs.
Councillor Odds, I think there's a few points there. Maybe we let the applicant for those and then you proceed.
Can I just make one more?
Yeah.
Because it's relevant to the dispersal, is these taxis that are going to collect the people. It was mentioned by somebody else as well. Where are they going to wait? I mean, getting a taxi after an evening out is not a 2-minute job. So they've got to have somewhere. And as you said, there's a bus stop right outside and a busy road.
Thank you. I think you're still on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm glad I'm talking to someone with a 20 years events experience. I have 14, so I'm coming your way very soon, like 6 years to go. First and foremost, there are no ticket sales and no advertised events. This is purely for private gatherings that people know each other, family. Obviously, there will be birthdays. They will be inviting their friends. That's a fact, yes. But there's no charging at the door, no special DJ coming and playing and people coming for that. There's no such thing. Again, we are not advertising anything, or we will not allow anyone advertising that. So just to let you know that. The kitchen-wise, yes, there are 2 kitchens. One upstairs, it's pizza starters and for the breakfast. And one downstairs, there's more grills and steaks and pastas and the other hot food. The food we are serving is between fine dining and an average food. We are not as good as fine dining. We're not Michelin starred, but we are alongside those lines. So the food is not and will never be a cover for anything else. This is what we do. This is what we do. And if that space wouldn't be there, we wouldn't be asking you that. It's a large space. And as a business mind, we're thinking of what we're going to add to the cumulative impact, which we believe we want by using this or not, because of the conditions we are accepting, really controlled. It's because it's that we want to utilize it as a business, any other business would do. And one thing I want to point out as well downstairs, the size of our cold room. It is in the plans as well. The cold room is even larger than the kitchens. So that is not, that cold room cost us within the region of, I don't know if it's right to pronounce numbers, but within the region of 35,000+. Just the installation of that cold room, we doubled the size what it was, just to store fresh food. You know, if you want to turn it into a club, why would we put a kitchen downstairs? Why would we put that size of a cold room? I would have utilized that space. And with all due respect, we are not silly to come in front of you and the residents asking for a nightclub or a late bar. In that area, we're well aware what the area's problems are. As I mentioned, we have 2 other businesses in the borough of Hackney around Shoreditch. Sorry, the taxis. The taxis we've been using this service already. Also, currently they are taking our customers from Crossway. It's very easy to identify if the cab is there or not. Sam's cars, they are very efficient. They keep certain number of cars for us because we provide great business to them. And to compensate this as well, we are offering 10% off to our clients of their bill, just to compensate the taxi, because we don't want them coming with their cars. Then it will cause a much bigger problem with everyone coming with the cars, which we don't want that. We are using the corner of Crossway down to the left, just behind our alleyway for our customers at the moment. The Uber apps, they tell you exactly where the location is, and the Sam's cars, they know where to pick up. So we are not on the high street. We're not affecting the traffic in any shape or form. And the bus stop as well, if you look at the times we're proposing, the restaurant will be relatively empty after 10:30, 10 o'clock, especially people now getting used to coming even earlier because of the 10 o'clock curfew, what was on place. However, even if the things go back to normal, it's very unlikely the restaurant will be very busy after 10. So we have enough space for people from downstairs to come upstairs and wait there. And again, we really do everything, regardless of the outcome of this application. We will do everything to minimize any noise issue outside. But first and foremost, we don't want to be identified as a brand by any wrongdoing in any shape or form.
Thank you. Councillor Odds, did you have some additional questions?
Yeah, more of a request. Would you be willing for your dispersal policy and your residence communication document to be written into the licence as conditions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Obviously, they would have to be amended in a way that would fit in with the wording and the correct policy.
Of course, we would be happy to.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Ross, did you have any further questions?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks very much for your responses. I just want to really know a little bit more about your business and how it's developed in the area and your previous businesses,
Sure.
and your character and experience as an applicant, and also a bit more about your colleague. I apologise, his name, Mr. Salman Kurt as well. Please, could you give us those details and background?
Of course, happily. I myself I'm in the business 20 years, nighttime economy. I started with the nightclubs when I was 21. I'm 42 years old at the moment. It's been 14 years. I'm on the managerial side, and I'm a personal license holder as well. Excuse me. I gave up nightclubs because I get married. I want a quieter life, and it was my chance to move to a restaurant in Farringdon, which was owned by Mr. Salman Kurt. I know Salman Kurt from my nightclub management days. He used to own a kebab takeaway in Rivington Street, and I was a very good customer. He was looking after me very well. And when he told me he's opening a large restaurant, it was a big opportunity for myself as well to stay away from the nightclub, because I want to go, with all due respect, sleep with my wife in the evenings rather than sleep in daytime. I had some health issues as well, insomnia after so many years working at night time. So I wanted to give up that business, get into the restaurants. So I've been mainly working as the Islington Borough. I've managed 2 different nightclubs and 3 other restaurants. All the restaurants being owned by Mr. Salman Kurt. And I've been dealing with all the operations of these businesses. This Teto's, we call it a love story. Our hashtag is a love story. These days, everything is a hashtag. So we go with the love story. It is a love story for us. We're passionate about it. Because Salman used to own a very small kebab shop. And we joined forces, and we take his restaurant, the first restaurant in Farringdon, to a next level. And then he had an opportunity to obtain the 313 Highbury New Park, the very old White House pub, and to change it into a restaurant. It took us 5 years. 5 years. I mean, if you had the right resources within the region of £2 million, you could have done it in 3 months. We didn't have that money. So we paid the rent of the premises, and we waited 5 years until we finished. We built it all ourselves. I mean, we paint the floor, the walls ourselves, and everything. So it took a very long time. However, it's a great success. The food we sell is with the price it is, and the quality is tremendous. We have. I mean, to be honest with you, we didn't expect to come where we are in this short period of time. It worked. The business model worked fabulously. The Dudley's Bakery was another opportunity for us, because we are close to Dalston. It's just around the corner from us, and we wanted to open another. And it was a good business decision for us. We want to open a second branch. Now the third branch is coming as well. We're going to start next year in Farringdon. And we have offers from investors as well, which we are not taking, because we don't want anyone to come into family. So we want to run everything from the team what we have right now. Well, Mr. Kurt has been operating venues. One of them is called Best Mangle in Old Street, and the other one is a City Wine is in Great Eastern Street. And both of them he's licensee for his premises, and up until now we haven't been in any problem with the Hackney Police or Hackney license.
Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, you've referenced already in response to my colleague's questions, obviously, about the special policy area. Yes, thanks, Amanda. About the special policy area in Dalston, and also your awareness of the cumulative impacts. I mean, we've had some very compelling representations from Dr. Hughes and the resident on the phone in terms of the cumulative impact of licensed premises, and also from the licensing officer, and this, and also from Councillor Adidjare in relation to the, the increasing casework, and antisocial behaviour that the special policy area is supposed to mitigate. I mean, how do you respond to that? I mean, this is obviously an additional. This is obviously going to be an addition to that. This extended hours. It's going to be more people on already, completely overwhelmed area of the borough. I mean, our policies are there to strike a balance really between obviously encouraging and supporting business, but obviously protecting the lives and the right to quiet enjoyment of the residents. I mean, you've heard very, very serious concerns for the resident applications and their councillors, as well as our licensing officer. How do you respond to those?
Of course. First of all, this is not the first licensing subcommittee I've been attending, and not as much as yours, obviously. And I have communicated with residents many times, and it is always the concerns before we open a business. And what came into light as well, unfortunately for us, is the past experiences of bad management in the area. It really upsets the residents, and it affects their livelihood. I totally understand that. If a restaurant opens next to my doorstep, I would do exactly the same what they are doing, until I understand the business model and what the impact it's going to have in the area. Let me give you a quick example. I mean, we opened in August, and we had the government scheme, the Eat Out to Help Out. I do believe you all remember that. The numbers we have seen during that period, I don't think we will ever see again in our lifetime. It was a big tester for a venue like us. We were selling alcohol. We were more than full capacity. Although we have 124 people licensed the ground floor, right now we're operating only on 70 people. I would like to stress that as well. Due to the social distancing, it is 70 people. At the time, we had bookings from 10 a.m. up until we closed. People, they were actually trying to queue outside to get in, which we were telling them no reservation, no entry. So if we didn't cause any, let me say, trouble, any ASB, this was a tester. This was a time to see how we operated that venue with exactly 30 days with full capacity. This is never going to happen again. But if there would be bad management, if there would be an impact on the cumulative impact, it would have been happened by now. So what we are asking right now is half an hour extra on the times, not 3 hours, not 4 hours, not 5 hours, half an hour, 30 minutes extra. Obviously the late night refreshment with that as well, so people, they actually can eat as well, rather than they go out and they want to have a kebab if you wish. No, they drink there, they eat there, they have little function if there's a function, and then they wait inside. We call their cabs, they take the cab, they leave the area. None of our customers, let's realistically speaking, no one will stay outside our door or next to it till 4 a.m. Not our customers. I mean, if you look at the venue, it's been designed to attract families. It's been designed to attract. It's not designed to attract ASB in any shape or form. I can't guarantee it's not going to happen. Don't get me wrong. There's always that one there, but we believe we proved already in that 30 days period that we are doing everything that can reasonably be expected from an operator to run a safe and responsible business selling alcohol, which again I want to stress, there was an alcohol license on the venue as well. This is not something we are applying from zero. This is not we didn't buy a clothing shop and turning it into a nightclub or anything. There's no such thing. It was premises selling food and alcohol. We just upgraded it, and we believe we make it better.
Okay, thank you. I've got the legal officer, Amanda, and then Councillor Moema.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry. Members, just to mention that the floor plan on the ground floor is in the papers of the agenda is not very clear, and therefore I don't know if you would if you'd like to ask the applicant if they would consider resubmitting a new plan to be approved by licensing.
Would you consider that?
I have the plans.
Yeah.
I can email them within the next.
Yes, I know,
hour.
but it needs to be approved. It needs to be a clearer plan.
Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, what is wrong with the plans we've got now?
Yeah, sorry, I think Sue wants to come in, licensing officer.
Sorry, Councillor. Just now, I just forwarded a proper ground floor plan circulated to all the members. So I just received it from licensing David Jewett, and I just forwarded to you the ground floor plan.
Okay, right.
We have submitted plans.
Yeah.
They are rather professionally drawn. So
Yeah.
I could just mention there as well. Sorry, the version of the plan in the report hasn't reproduced well at all, but we did get a clear plan.
Is it at all possible to share that on the screen? I don't know whether that's something that's possible. If anyone could share that, that might.
Could you also show the basement?
Yeah.
Chair, if you like, I could share the ground floor plan now.
Yeah, but if you could share the ground floor plan in the basement, I think that would be a great assistance to everybody to be able to see it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll quickly do the ground floor.
Cheers.
So hopefully everyone can see that. So I believe this end is the sorry, this end is Kingsland High Street.
It is indeed.
Yep. And then the stairs leading to the basement are at the rear of the premises, away from
they are.
High Street. It'll just take me a few seconds to get the basement.
Would you mind just putting the ground floor up just for a second again, just to see if members have got any questions about that? I think Councillor
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, having seen that plan again, and just noticed, as Mr. Chewett mentioned, the entrance to the basement is the stairs at the back. Is there any other exit from the basement other than that staircase?
Halfway of the staircase is the fire exit.
Could you just share the plan again?
I'm just trying to, Chair. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So in order to get to that fire exit, you have to actually come up a staircase, which is the same staircase that you would come up to get to the ground floor.
Great, thank you.
It is, yes, but only the halfway. Halfway of the staircase is the fire exit. You need to go up one more staircase more to go to the ground floor.
Is there any other exit from the basement other than that staircase at the back?
This is the only exit.
And have the fire authorities approved that?
We have sent them detailed plans, which again I can email to you as well after this meeting, with showing where the fire escape routes are, and where the firefighting equipment is, where the smoke detectors, where all the equipment is, the routes, the doors, everything is being submitted.
Okay.
It just seems to me that having only one staircase as an exit is bordering on the dangerous.
I mean, if we were to grant this licence, I mean, obviously no decision has been made at all, would you be prepared to accept a condition that this is subject to approval by the fire service and make necessary adjustments to make it fire safe?
We would welcome that.
Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Oz, did you want to?
No, I was just saying that usually it is required that we have two exits, alternative exits from a venue like that, because if there is a fire there, how the hell do you get out? Excuse my language.
And are we able to? Is there any more questions on that plan, Councillor Merm? Or
I'm just intrigued to see how the basement layout works, to be honest. And then just the efficacy of the dispersal plan if people are going to be waiting and so on. So Councillor Odds has already covered some of that. So just if we look at the basement, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. David, have you got the basement? Oops.
Yep.
Yeah.
May I send you the most recent plans that is showing the fire escape right now? If you can give me any email, I can forward it to you straight away. And there's a basement as well, everything in clear.
Has it changed since you emailed those through earlier?
Hello?
It is not, because
there's the
these
gentleman
are
on
the
the
ones.
phone.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a lot of people wanting to come in, so I'll just take you in order. I could have Super first, and then I'll have the gentleman on the phone.
Hello?
Super, do you want licensing office? Do you want to come in?
Yeah, just to let you know, Chad, the fire risk assessment plan, which the applicant is referring to, was also circulated to all the members yesterday as part of the update. So it should be in your emails.
That's the up-to-date one, is it? Thank you. Yeah, can the gentleman on the phone, please?
Yes, hello. Sorry, yes, the applicant has had a lot of, has given you many warm words of comfort. Had quite a discussion, and you know, we've kind of been excluded from all of that, and we've had no chance to make.
I was going to come on to you asking you questions. Obviously, you should get an opportunity to do that. Have you got a specific question on this plan, and then I'll move on to giving you all an opportunity to ask questions.
Well, why did the applicant intend to turn the ground floor into a bar? The applicant applied to remove the substantial table meal condition. How does that square with everything else he said?
Would you mind if we just focus on this plan that we've got on the screen, and then we can move on to those questions? I'll bring you in as soon as we've finished focusing on this plan.
What about the plan?
At any point on the plan, I'm just giving members an opportunity to speak on the basement plan, which is on the screen at the moment. Then you can come in with those other questions. Of course, you can't see. We've got the basement plan on the screen at the moment. We're showing it as a screen.
Yeah, and what about it? I mean, yes, I mean it's a bar. I can see that.
Can I just give my colleagues an opportunity to ask questions about this plan, and then I can bring you in with those other points?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Gordon. I just wanted to ask the applicant, and maybe for David as well, if you could also comment, if you think it's relevant, why there is the deviation from this, which seems like another restaurant type layout, doesn't kind of suggest vertical drinking, versus the, I mean, I'm glad we've kind of accommodated, you know, 40 is so much more than 65, but how, talking us through kind of this set of plans presented to the committee in the bundle and to the public, and then what the application says, how that marries up.
David, do you want to comment on that first?
I can do. Sorry, Councillor, could you just, I didn't really understand the question there, sorry.
So this plan in the bundle would suggest on reading that it's kind of, you know, a place where people are seated. It looks relatively reasonable.
Yeah.
The application and the things which are being asked to be removed together, kind of vertical drinking, so presumably no tables, like this plan would suggest.
No, I don't think there's no application for vertical drinking. I think the applicant.
So the change in the condition, 30, removing 30 and adding.
No, because
there's no vertical drinking, but as the resident said in their submission, one of them sitting on a high bar stool, perched in, is, to all intents and purposes, it is.
It could be. I guess if we're considering vertical drinking in its purest sense, for example, someone walking into a pub and standing at the bar and ordering, that the application as it stands didn't seek for that to be able to be carried on. In the original application, from my understanding, perhaps Mr. Soren can add to it, but my understanding was that the applicant was seeking to remove the condition requiring alcohol sales to be ancillary to table meals, but that all customers would be seated when they're served alcohol.
Okay, so if they were in this configuration of the function space, they would sit down and eat and be served alcohol like this.
That's right. Yes.
So, given that you're minded, so back to the applicant, then minded to consider reducing the capacity, how much of a deal breaker is that? So people will be down here having just drinks or having food as well, and we're fine to keep that. Just want to kind of get a perspective on that.
The applicant want to respond to that?
Yes, please. I think, again, I would like to clarify a couple of things. In the basement, which you are looking at right now on the screen, yes, there are tables and chairs. Yes, it can be used, because right now, regardless of alcohol or no alcohol, we cannot use this space. End of. No, not even for two people having a meeting. It's not allowed as per the license. So there are tables and chairs, but there is a bar as well. Again, there's nothing hidden. But we would like to obtain a permission that to be this. If there's 20 people here, if they want to have a little dance, we want to allow them to do so.
Okay.
But the condition 13, if we keep condition 13, everyone in the basement must have food with their drinks.
So what's the issue with that, though?
We want to keep condition 13 for the ground floor, but we want to be able to serve drinks only in the basement area in case of an event, in case of a, as I say, pre-booked, agreed event.
So then what would be the issue with having somebody either book a party, and then if it's a birthday party, then you must order food?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
So then you don't need the condition to be removed for people to have just drinks?
That's fine. We are happy to keep the condition.
So we can keep the condition that people must have food?
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay.
Fine. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, could you clarify that for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, and people please chip in, I think we've got an agreement from the applicant, if we were minded, that we're going to keep condition 13 for the whole premises.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that would be a substantial table meal on the ground floor and the basement?
Yes. Okay. I'll now give you an opportunity to come in with the other points you wanted to make, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, it still remains that the applicant did apply to remove that condition for both the floor and the basement. I'm pleased to hear that that condition would remain. There would still be the increase in capacity. I take it then there won't be any vertical drinking in the basement, if that can be confirmed. The applicant has made, an agreement with the police. I don't know how that's going to work through now. I would get to the dispersal policy. I heard what the councillor said. I've got to say, though, that living here, I can't see that dispersal policy working. The applicant has asked for licensable activity right up to the limit of the core hours, and then there's the half an hour drinking up time after that. Then there's going to be at least another 30 minutes for a dispersal. I have to deal with a lot of drunken dispersals with shouting and car doors slamming. And I have to ask, why is the applicant asking for an extra half an hour when he says it's not busy after 10 p.m. in normal times? Never mind now. Why ask for that extension?
Okay. Thanks very much. If the applicant wants to respond to those points, and I'll also give Dr. Hughes and Councillor Akjari a chance to come in if they wish to, and then we'll move to summing up, I think, unless there's any further points. Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, about the dispersal policy, although I do respect the gentleman's views, I would kindly oppose to what he thinks that is not doable. Once again, with the number of guests we had during the Eat Out and Help Out from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. for 12 hours non-stop, we managed it. So I believe we will be managing it. It is not a difficult or dreamlike dispersal policy. It's a very standard one. I have seen much worse than this, much harder ones than this. But I would suggest that we have the right staffing, enough cameras, and enough control on our clients that we're confident we can carry out this dispersal policy to the dot. And I believe we proved that. Regarding the half an hour, it's a difficult one. At the end of the day, if half an hour is going to impact your lives, which I believe it won't. Yes, it's true. Less footfall for the food after 10 is a fact. I'm not going to stand here and say, no, we are busy till 12. No. And but it doesn't mean that we're going to keep it open until that time. If it's quiet, we close. If there is no event, if there's no pre-booked party, we close at 10. We close at 10:30. The closing earlier is in benefit for us if there's no business, because it's less cost. Again, we got 27 staff. They're not like the bar on the corner with 3 barmen and 1 glass collector. We have 27 people working at the premises, and we accept to reduce the number of the downstairs second time since we made this application. I think we are showing willingness here on every angle to find a middle ground, and I strongly believe that we make justice to our case.
Thanks very much. I'll now invite, I think, Dr. Hughes, do you want to make any further points that weren't covered?
Thank you very much. I've listened to all Mr. Soren's representations, and he makes a very convincing case. But I do have to say that over the years I have listened to very many other similar representations from marvellous people who have a marvellous business model, who tell us what a wonderful business they have, and the license is granted. And then 6 months down the line, they've gone out of business, they've moved, and then the license is transferred to somebody else who is not so scrupulous. And I'm not a legal expert in this field, but I have seen time and time and time again these wonderful business models being presented, which then dissolve into dust when somebody else takes over the license and just looks at what they're allowed to do in the license and then pushes it to its limit. So what I would like to see is, I'm not sure that you legally require the conditions to a particular proprietor, because as my understanding of the law is that the license attaches to the premises. And however marvellous these promises are, they nevertheless don't protect us from somebody else taking on premises and applying those regulations in a way which is not so sensitive to the needs of local residents. And we have learned the hard way. I'm afraid not accusing anybody of bad faith, but especially in the current climate, the hospitality industry is in a lot of trouble. A lot of people are going out of business, and what we want is a license attached to those premises that will guarantee us in the longer term a future where we know that there won't be people dropped out of that basement onto our streets. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm not sure that was particularly a question, unless there was. But thank you very much for your representations. Councillor Ajajare, did you want to ask any further questions? You'll obviously have a chance to sum up as well. So.
Do you know, not as such, although the halal steak sounds very, very good. I think my concerns still rest on this being an SPA and the impact on our residents. The best intent and the best wishes in the world, and with the best management, because we know our businesses in Dalston are responsible, is the impact on patrons of these premises, which is of which matters in relation to our licensed premises. And obviously, I've just seen a year-on-year increase in the issues that my residents are faced with, which none of us would like on our doorstep. So no assurances can be given in respect of this. So I do hope, in terms of the SPA, that's something that is seriously taken into consideration in respect of this. I don't know whether there's scope for trial periods. If this is going to be agreed, whether there's scope for a trial period, see how things go. I don't know whether that's possible, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I've just got one further question before we move to summing up. I mean, in terms of the condition that's been agreed by the police, I just really want to sort of go over that again in terms of Mr. Kurt being present at the premises. How do you see that operating on a practical level? I know Councillor Moema asked earlier what happens if he's ill or otherwise called away. I mean, how is that going to operate? And obviously, it needs to be other people present as well as him. There needs to be SIAs and, you know, so how do you see that operating on a practical level? And can, you know, if we were minded to grant, what sort of practical condition are you offering?
About the Mr. Kurt's condition, we have done this before. In a much busier venue we used to have back in 2010. We are very confident. We are very confident there won't be many occasions that basement will be in use. It is not the primary object of the business. So we can honestly commit to Mr. Salman Kurt being there. If he's ill, if he's not in the country, if this, if that, no events. Simple as that. And I would like to stress this to give you a reassurance. But if the venue, if Salman Kurt sells the venue to someone, they cannot use the basement. Simple as that. I mean, it protects you from the future redevelopment of that place into something much bigger than what we are using for. So we are happy to exercise that condition purely to give you confidence that it will be under Salman Kurt's supervision. So if he's not there, no event. And we really mean there won't be events there 7 days a week or 20 days a month. There will not be. Effectively, it's not a cheap option. It's a very luxurious option. It's £1,000 hire fee for 40, 50 people. Please do let me know how many people do you know around you that can pay that money for everyday partying. This is not what we are trying to chase. If there's a good client, there are clients happy to spend £1,000 hire fee and have a little gathering there with their family or friends. It's open to do so. So that's why we are that confident, because we believe not many. Don't forget, we have another venue. We know how many events we are getting. Not that many. Not that many in any shape or form.
Okay, thanks very much. I think I'll now proceed to the summing up. Sorry, Councillor Moema?
Sorry, just saying David wanted to speak.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Chair. It's just to be really clear on what was just agreed on in terms of the condition in relation to the basement. Is my understanding correct that the condition requiring alcohol sales being ancillary to table meals or seated table meals, is that now the case for the basement area as well?
Yes, we agree to that.
Yeah, he agreed to that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we'll now proceed to the summing up. And if people could please keep their remarks brief and not go over, very briefly sum up their position and not go over issues that we've already discussed. Sorry, Amanda, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just a quick question for Mr. Tewitt to ask, following what the applicant has just said about accepting that condition, do you feel that's enforceable and are you happy for that condition to stay, or what's your view on it now?
I must admit, I'm just a little bit confused by it, I must admit, because are we now saying that the basement is just an extension of the ground floor restaurant, which is again another significant change from the original application?
That's not. That's certainly not what my understanding. My understanding was that was together with the conditions that the basement should only be used for pre-booked events. And we'd already spoken about that the pre-booked events have to be booked in advance. And with sufficiently in advance. I think it is 7 days in advance with the deposit paid and also a guest list supplied.
Yeah. So all of that's fine, but even so, those persons in the basement, any alcohol consumption undertaken by those persons is ancillary to that person taking a table meal. So that effectively is a restaurant, but slightly different restaurant where it's a pre-booked, effectively private restaurant and not a public restaurant like it would be on the
You said
ground.
a function room. Does that, is
Yeah.
that what you consider a function room, Mr. Tewitt?
Well, this is kind of what I'm trying to just understand, because I don't really understand it now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I'll bring the applicant in. So.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tweet, are you aware I'm asking for recorded music and performance of dance for the basement?
You are.
So that is the difference. The difference
Okay.
is while people having their meals, having a drink, celebrating their birthday, or presenting a book or a launch or a little arts gallery, if you wish. So I can play music, and I can allow people to stand up without drinks and have a little boogie, if you wish. But this cannot be done on the restaurant. So the difference is it's an extension with allowing them to dance and music, whereas this is not allowed, and we don't want to get into this on the ground floor. Ground floor is a restaurant, background, no music. That is the only difference, basically.
I understand
music
that.
and dance.
We just got to be really careful, because what the condition is that alcohol shall not be sold, supplied, or consumed on the premises other than to persons who are taking substantial meals, and that the consumption of alcohol is ancillary to taking such a meal. The supply of alcohol shall be by waiter or waitress service only. That is the condition. I'm not sure if that fits with parties, people dancing, that sort of thing. That's where I'm struggling to understand how what you're proposing to do in the basement would work with that condition, which is a condition we typically attach to restaurant style operations. As you understand, that's how the ground floor restaurant operates. So we're in a situation here where we've kind of got a traditional ground floor restaurant, but a non-traditional basement function area with a traditional ground floor restaurant condition. I'm not entirely sure how that could work in practice. And on top of that,
well, Mr. Chair, it would seem to promote the licensing objectives, does it not?
Well, I guess generally it's often been a case that restaurant-style operations have been of less of a concern for subcommittees across Hackney and in the special policy areas, both of them. But this is what's being proposed here seems to be changing quite a lot, and it's changed quite a lot in the last few days as well, and even during tonight's meeting, which is a bit of a concern for me.
I understand that, Mr. Stewart. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're proposing to Chewit, and I don't know whether I'm just putting it out there, whether an adjournment of this hearing for there to be further discussions with the licensing authorities about exactly what's proposed would be. I don't know whether that's something that might be of assistance, or whether this is something we can.
I still think it's something you can make a decision on. I mean, we can adjourn, but just the condition as I read out a moment ago doesn't align with what's being proposed by the applicant.
Yeah.
I think if the applicant was purely seeking an extension into the basement level of the ground floor activities, that would be something that's straightforward and easy for us to understand. But we've got this added element of entertainment function space. On top of that, it's Dalston Special Policy Area. We've got concerned residents, concerned ward councillor as well. They're just quite, it's just not sitting right. I'm really sorry, Mr. Soren, but it's just not quite sitting well.
Yeah, I mean,
is it worth adjourning or not, Mr. Tewitt?
Maybe not.
Can you resolve anything tonight with Mr.
or we can make a decision.
The thing is, I mean, you can adjourn, but it's not just not my concerns. Obviously, it's concerns from the local, from the other residents as well.
Very significant concerns from residents as well. So, Councillor Moemba, did you want to come in, or Councillor Odds? So,
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say what Mr. Stewart was saying. The difference, it seems to me, is the upstairs restaurant is a la carte, whereas downstairs will be table d'hôte.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The upstairs restaurant, you come in, you book a table, you come in, you have a meal, you order from the menu. The downstairs will be an event where the restaurant, the owners of the premises will be catering unless they allow in outside caterers. But either way, they will be catering a set menu. Whether they're meals, there have to be meals if they want drinks, but the meals wouldn't be just a question of coming in, oh, I'll have that steak and I'll have that chicken or whatever. It will be the host who books the venue agrees with Mr. Soren, right, we are going to supply our guests with this meal. There might be one or two choices, I don't know, but that seems to be the difference to me.
Yeah, so
Councillor Moemba, the applicant, yeah.
just really quickly, so that was my understanding too, that it's to try and balance and uphold the SPA principles without turning it into another restaurant, because at the outset it did feel like it had the potential, in other hands, to become a bar. So it's to avoid that. But my understanding is the same as Councillor Odds, that there would be pre-booking and then the venue space would be used so that people had to eat. You couldn't just have an event where people drank. And so if maybe what might be helpful is that if legal officers could find could condition that in a way which doesn't make it sound like a restaurant, I think might be the issue. It might then be more enforceable for officers further down the line. That's much easier to understand.
Amanda, is that something you think you can assist with? Oh, sorry, I will bring you in a minute.
I'm not sure that I can, because I'm a bit concerned about the fact that it's not the same as what his initial application was. So I'm a bit concerned about the licensing office, licensing authority's concerns about the application. I mean, I know he said that we can make a decision, but I'm concerned about the enforceability and the robustness then of that decision, and the difficulties we will be in if it's not clear, and if I don't know how these issues can be resolved, or whether the other parties are happy for us to try and agree some other.
I think I share your concern, Amanda, to be honest. I mean, I think the point's very well made by Mr. Tuitt as well about how this application has evolved throughout the hearings. So I think we're now in a position where there probably is evolved significantly. There is a lack of clarity really about what we're adjudicating on. I think in order to be fair to everybody, including the applicant, I would probably make a suggestion that it might be something that could be usefully adjourned so that it could be further discussion. But that's my suggestion. I will bring you in, Mr. Soren, to comment on this.
Sorry, can I just first address Mr. Tuitt very quickly, if I may? There has been substantial changes as the meeting, as the committee develops. I don't think this is something we should be worried. I think I'm trying to show willingness, and I'm trying to hear the concerns and address those concerns by making changes on the license application we made. So I'm trying to make it as friendly to the neighbors and as easy to control by the authorities. So that's why there are changes. I mean, I'm not going to sit here being stubborn. I said I applied for 80 people. I would like 80 people. I'm trying to show willingness as an operator that we listen and we accept. If there are concerns that we do something, we accept. I might lose 2-3 events a year, but as long as I keep the residents and my clients in order, then I think it's a positive thing rather than. Because I believe that you pointed out as a negative that there are things changing. As I say, it's all for good faith. It's all under good faith. And regarding the decision, whatever you think is appropriate, either adjourn it or deciding, I'll leave that to you.
I mean, I suppose an alternative would be if you withdraw the current application and then resubmit once there's a bit more clarity. I mean, I suppose that is an alternative as well. I don't know whether you want to comment on that, Amanda, if that's an alternative available.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that would make everything ensure that everyone has commented on all the changes. But it's just, I mean, unless Mr. Tuitt thinks there's a possibility of us trying to resolve any of the concerns tonight, then I'm only just a bit worried that the licensing authority may not be comfortable with it. Unless Mr. Tuitt can say something that.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've had a long discussion this evening already. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's a long discussion. We're at a stage where we're not really sure what the application's for, and it's a variation application within the Dalston Special Policy Area. It's for the applicant to demonstrate to us why the application shouldn't be received, and we've come some way in this process, and we're still not really sure what's being sought by the applicant. And so that for me is why I'm not really sure if we are to adjourn this evening, it would get us anywhere, because there's other parties involved. So we can adjourn for me to have discussions with Mr. Sorum, but there are other parties involved. I think it's only fair that those discussions are had here.
And obviously the burden of proof is on the applicant as well in terms of the special policy area. I will say that in terms of making an exception. Sorry, Councillor Odds?
I just wanted to suggest something which Mr. Tuitt just touched on, that if we adjourn, the adjournment should be on the basis of further discussions between the applicant and the licensing authority, with the involvement of Dr. Hughes and Councillor Adjari as representatives of the residents, if that's possible.
Do you want to comment on that?
Sorry, Councillor. The only thing I would say about that, there are 6 other persons involved in this. Not everyone has attended the hearing, but they're all parties in this process. So those conversations would have to be had with those persons as well. And that's exactly what this process, the hearing process, is for those conversations to be had in a public forum in a transparent way. If we start to have conversations outside of that process, we still have to come back to a public hearing to make the decision. So I'm not really sure what we'd achieve if we were to do that.
Amanda?
Mr. Tuitt, I wanted to ask, is it still possible or not for the application to be withdrawn and resubmitted? Or
yeah, that's always possible. I would say in relation to this application, it does seek to change the layout as well, and my understanding is that the layout of the ground floor has changed from the existing plan that we have attached to the license. So if you are to approve anything today, I think at least for the sake of the applicant, so they're not in breach of their license, to approve the ground floor plan. But the rest of it, the basement and the use of it, the hours, the conditions, that sort of thing, I'm not sure we're quite in a position for that to be approved.
Yeah. Okay, well that's very helpful. I mean, I think we've got a suggestion in front of us that we approve the ground floor plan, that it's sort of severed off from the rest of the application. And that Mr. Sorum considers withdrawing the application at this stage, and obviously it's entirely a matter for you. And then that, obviously with liberty to reapply, and if that is the decision you make, I strongly suggest that there should be, quite extensive discussions in advance of making an application with, all the other parties involved, particularly the licensing authorities and the police, and with residents and ward councillors as well, if possible, to make sure that it's something that everyone understands?
Yeah.
Does that just wasted all our time this evening?
Sorry, do you, sorry, sir, do you want to come in or?
Well, it seems like we've spent an awful lot of time on this, and you're saying essentially that it's not going anywhere.
I mean, it's mainly it's decision for Mr. Soren. So it's you know, we can obviously proceed to a decision, but I mean, obviously in these hearings we do have to try to be fair to all parties. I mean, we can proceed to a decision as well. That's another thing that we could do. Mr. Soren?
Oh, hi. It is a strange position to be in. Thank you very much. I mean, approving ground floor would help. By the way, we're closed at the moment anyway, so we're going to be reopened once we are allowed to reopen. We don't even do takeaways. So approving the ground floor, I would welcome that. And I don't want to push you for a decision because it doesn't look like we fully understand what we try to do. And this is the last thing I want is to seek an answer from you while some of you didn't understand or not comfortable with where we are or making a decision. So I'm happy to withdraw the application in the condition of the ground floor approved, and then resubmit an application with I believe clearer. For example, leave the condition 13 off the table straight away in that application. But the only difference will be is a set of plans, still applying for a music and dance and a meal. So, sorry. But I believe withdrawing the application for the moment is the best option for everybody's sake.
I should just say, so the application isn't withdrawn because that would withdraw the whole thing, including the variation of plan. So the ground floor plan and the basement, that includes the part of the plan that's the toilet. I think if members are satisfied to grant that part of it, and then the rest of the basement leisure area, let's call it that part is excluded from the license, from the drawing annexed to the license.
So it's just the big bar that you're going to approve then in the plan?
Well, we haven't made any decision yet, but that's about, as I understand, the application's been amended for to just be the plan, the bar and the plan, yes.
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will also give the other parties an opportunity to comment on that. I mean, obviously, there's still an application, so you've still got a chance to sum up. So I'll start with the gentleman on the phone.
So my understanding is that the applicant is withdrawing all of the application apart from the submission of the plan. Correct?
Yes.
Well, all I can say is that it's a big bar on the plan. Obviously, it's very disappointing. We've spent over 2 hours on this, and the application has been, I would really appreciate all the efforts that have been put in, but really the licensing needs and all the responsible authorities really need to make these applications less arduous in the circumstances and then get the groundwork done in advance, because we're not getting paid for this. We're here because in some ways, not to be too dramatic, our lives depend on it. The amenity of our life is really very adversely affected by what goes on in the area, and this premises is literally a stone's throw away from me. And it really matters to us, and it's just not just a matter of a bit of paperwork. It's very vital to us, and I hope everyone appreciates that and understands that it's very important.
Thanks very much for your contribution, and that's, I think we've all, both speaking for myself and my colleagues, I think we've all very much taken that on board. Dr. Hughes, do you want to add anything?
Well, I'd actually like to thank the subcommittee. I feel more listened to than I have for many years, actually, with this licensing committee. I think you have gone some way towards taking our concerns on board. I hope very much that we'll come up with a positive outcome from this, and thank you for giving it so much attention. But I do appreciate that. I mean, speaking myself, you know, I'm elderly, I'm disabled, I'm doing this on top of a full-time job. It is a lot of work for residents having to deal with all this, but I appreciate that you take our views seriously and on board, and thank you for that.
Thanks so much for your contributions, Dr. Hughes. And Councillor Adjari, have you got anything to add?
No, sorry. I can only kind of echo what Dr. Hughes has put forward. Thank the panel for their time. Also, Mr. Soren, is great just seeing that views have been taken into consideration as part of this process, and I just look forward to whatever arises next, and the approach that's been taken as well for the present. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for coming along. It is obviously extremely useful for, you know, residents and councillors attend these hearings, and we can get a range of contributions. I mean, Mr. Soren, I think I'm not sure you've probably got anything to add at this stage, but thank you very much for your time and contributions, and, you know, the contribution you make with the business. I think that concludes the formal part of the hearing, unless there's anything else that anyone needs to add.
No.
Okay, thank you very much, and yeah, let's hope we can all meet in person at some point soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.